Hi, my name's Alan. I'm here from the Innisfil ideaLAB and library. I'll be leading you on the instructional video for how to put together your own mini seed library as a part of Seedy Saturday. You'll have picked up one of our laser cut kits, and you're going to have to look carefully at all the parts that you have, and you're going to need some glue. Some wood glue, white glue, and if you don't have a nice little dabber, a crummy old paintbrush that you can use to dab the glue. And we'll go through step by step on how to do that, so you kind of know all the pieces go together. And yeah, and then you'll be able to safely store your seeds. So the first step you'll want to do in opening your kit is kind of inventory how many pieces you have and what we're looking for. So you'll need 4 of these little strips here with the little zigzag sort of finger jointing teeth and 1 short one. There should be 1 rectangle with 3 sides with those sort of finger joints. 3 little inserts that kind of look like folder tabs. Those are to kind of help organize all your envelopes inside of the box. We'll just set those aside for now. There'll be these 2 pointed pieces. This will be sort of a planting ruler. Again, we'll set those aside. This will fit together quickly. And then we have the various walls of the box. There'll be 2 of these with the sort of extra row of holes along this top edge here. I'm just going to lay that down. You'll notice that one of the sides will be a little bit dirtier than the other. You can use some light sanding paper to kind of clean that off if you want. You can paint it as well. So I got 2 of those laying out, and 1 piece that's the floor that has the finger joint tabs all the way around. And right now I'm placing all the dirty sides up because that's going to be the inside of the box. And next we have, this one has a nice little engraving on there, and I'm going to face that down obviously because I want that to be facing outwards. And this one also is a little bit different, you'll notice, in terms of pairing them. This one has a little notch, or a long notch along the top edge. That's where the lid's going to slide out from. So sometimes I like to dry fit the pieces. I'm not going to really hammer them together or anything, but I find this is helpful when gluing them together. First of all, so they understand how the pieces, fit. Oh, and this would be the lid. So this is going to have the short row of that little strip that goes there. That provides a handle for it to pull it in and out. I'm just going to set that aside for now. So what I like to do is just, apply glue to the tabs. But in terms of making this all fit together, I also want to add these top strips here. And perhaps to make it a little bit easier before I really sort of dive in and sort of fold this thing together, I'll apply glue to them, but I don't want there to be any excess glue in this little space between them because that's where the lid has to slide in and out. So I'm going to very carefully apply some glue to the tabs here, not too much. This is fairly thick carpenter's glue. For this step, I would not recommend using hot glue. Hot glue is maybe a little bit too messy for this step. So I'm not applying a lot there, and just going to fit that together. This has a little bit of a curvature to it, but that's okay. And hopefully things will fit together nicely where you don't have to clamp. Sometimes you can clamp things with masking tape temporarily. I do see there's a little bit of excess glue that has pushed out, so I'm going to take this little pointed thing from our ruler and just going to chase that edge and pick that up and sort of wipe that away. So that is pretty good. And I'm gonna work on the bottom rail now. I can push the glue a little bit to the bottom, that's okay if it's kind of hidden underneath that bottom rail. I'm just gonna apply it to what normally would be a tab, just in between those holes here. Just a little dab. You can seal your boxes, stain it. Nothing that's going to be, off-gassing or anything like that, obviously, because we want to keep our seeds nice and safe, cool, and dry. All right, this little tiny bit pushing in between these two rails here. Again, I'm going to chase that with my little piece here. And if it's on the inside, doesn't really matter, but I can push it towards that bottom rail to kind of, again, further reinforce that piece there. And maybe what I'll do is I'll hold that up a little bit so you can kind of see what I'm... So nice, yeah, little rail there. That's gonna slide our lid. This design was created using an online website called makercase.com. There's a new and an old version. I'll just continue gluing here. And this was slightly modified in a program called Inkscape, which we tend to use quite a lot in the hackLAB. It's a free equivalent to Adobe Illustrator or Corel Draw for all those old school silk screeners and sign painters, or people who used to deal with vinyl cutters, because it deals with vector designs, mostly used for cutting things, or really clear edged graphics. So it's not like Photoshop where you're dealing with pixels. You can bring in images that have pixels and whatnot, but ultimately we're converting it to be these nice crisp cut lines that scale really nicely. So I can take this design, or a standard sort of finger jointed box that was made in MakerCase. It'll export a file for you to use or modify. And we can then open that in Inkscape. And we have various instructional videos and classes on how to use Inkscape, as well as using it to set up engravings or making stickers, design your own stickers, and heat transfers that can go on various cloth items, clothing. Very popular using the heat press. All right. So a little bit of glue there, and again, I'm putting that sort of the dirtier side down, so you're not looking at it. Just saves us from a little bit of the glue time, sanding. Sometimes you might need a small hammer. Not that we want to harm anything here, just in terms of convincing the tighter elements to fit together. A little bit snug there, but that just means I don't have to use clamps. And again, I'm going to chase that groove to make sure there's no glue going to gum up our rail. Okay, and while I've done that, I might as well do the lid, get all the rails done. So again, the nice side up, a little bit more gluing on the tabs. I could put it on both sides, but I'm not being that fussy right now. For this one, I'm going to put the dirtier side out because it's going to be a little bit easier to sand that afterwards. You could pre-sand them, but I find that some of these pieces, like these little strips, are a little bit too fine to handle, especially if you're using any kind of power tools. And just make sure that that's going to smooth out. I'll just set that aside. All right, so rails facing in. I'm going to lay this out. And kind of fit them together. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Just going to grab a little more glue from my little jar. You may find you want to lay down some old newsprint or paper towels or an old picnic tablecloth. The nice thing I like about sort of zippering them together like this or pre-fitting them is I can now just run a line of glue all along here, and it's going to put glue on both sides of the tabs. And I'm just going to focus on kind of putting this side up and this side for now. So I'm just going to apply a little bit of glue here. Okay, so I can fold these up now, but I'm also going to want to glue along these tabs here. So much like doing these ones, I'm just going to apply a little dab of glue to each of these little tabs. This is the great thing about using MakerCase, is it figures out the design of these little tabs for us, and that makes a much stronger box. And it's also, you'll see in a second, it stands up much more sturdily compared to if you were just having straight sort of, you know, what you would call like butt joints. All right, fold them up. And now I can basically sort of secure this with 2 fingers. Actually not even, because the glue is holding quite nicely. If I had a mallet, I might tap it a little bit here in the middle because there's a bit of bow in the wood. And again, I'm going to use my little pointer tool, just kind of spread that glue, just so it's not going to bother me in the future. Just kind of works out that way. So see how that's standing up nice and sturdy. Whereas normally, yeah, you might want to clamp or put some masking tape to hold that in place. So you can see how it's standing up on its own. I don't have to hold it or clamp it or anything. So now I can work on the other 2 faces, lifting them up while I've applied glue to these various tabs along the edge here. Same technique. If you have a squeeze bottle, probably go a little bit faster than using a brush or a stick or something. You can just run a nice little bead along there. Again, trying not to apply too much because that just means a little more cleanup. All right. So with this next step, I'm gonna do the staining tabs. Again, I'm lucky that this glue is fairly stiff. I don't have to worry about it dripping down. I suppose if you had it, you could also use cyanocrylic glue, which is really clean in terms of, doesn't take really much to do a strong bond, but unless you're a woodworker or a trim carpenter, a lot of people don't have that, in quantities anyways, on hand. All right, so I've done this edge, these 2 edges. I'll do this one next. Just fold them up. Sometimes you'll find that this edge here won't mesh together perfectly. It might just mean you might have to tap this down a little bit so that all those finger joints are coming together nicely. And then again, I'm going to use my little pointer to clean up all the excess on the inside, so you can feel proud of your project and do a good job. All right. It might be handy to keep a damp cloth on hand. I tend to just sort of wipe it off with my fingers and then let it gel. I do find with this carpenters or woodworkers paint, if I just hold it for a couple of minutes, that's usually enough for the moisture to seep out into the wood and just give it enough rigidity so that it's not going to pop back out of place. Sometimes if these Baltic birch ply sheets are not stored carefully, they can get a bit of a bow to them. And as much as we can, we try not to select those for projects like this, but sometimes we don't always have the best options. Alright, dabbing all those little tabs. Now I'm going to do both sides, obviously, because this is the last wall to go up. Alright. You could paint the interior of this a dark color. Maybe to help, absorb any